What's up, Tech MMA? I'm your host, Zach Weicker, and today we got a very special guest. She's a professional fighter with a 2-0 record and coming off a victory at CFFC 130. Please welcome Emily Martins. Emily, how are you doing today?
Hey, how are you? I'm doing great.
Emily, it's a pleasure to have you. And of course, you just had that big victory. So, how are you feeling after the big one?
Man, I'm very happy. It feels great when all the hard work pays off.
Yeah, and you're very emotional after the win. So, how much did that win mean to you?
Um, so if you see my interview after my fight, I talk about how much of a purpose I know I have in my life, and always whenever I fight, when whatever I do in life, it that's the biggest thing on me. Everything I do is to honor and glorify Jesus Christ. So I always get very emotional when I talk about that because he's my everything. And if it wasn't for that, if I wasn't sure about the purpose he has on my life, I would probably not even be doing what I do or fight. I wouldn't know what I would be.
That's great. That really is. And have you always been someone that's been religious, or have you just gotten into Jesus Christ and just learned into that pathway?
Growing up, I used to always go to church, but my life growing up was kind of crazy until one day I really got into church, and I got to meet Jesus deeply. And man, once you're there, I mean, you never want to go back. It's great to have a life like this, and I love it. And I know everything I have and I do, I'm so grateful, and I just know he takes care of me.
That's amazing, really is. And to stick on the fight, you finished the fight with a slick rear naked choke, and that's not the first time you did that, as you did that also in your debut. So, would you consider that your signature move or your go-to submission?
100%, man. I mean, um, not only on my pro debut, but on Worlds 2022 when I was World Purple Belt champion. My first match I submitted with rear naked choke, and then my amateur MMA debut, it was also a rear naked choke. And then whenever I turned pro, rear naked choke, and then now rear naked choke. So I mean, even though like they know I'm gonna come with the rear naked choke, I'm still doing it. So 100%, it got to be my signature move now.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And earlier on the fight, you had an arm triangle that you had it for quite a while. And in your opinion, what did you think it was ever close to submitting her or ever close to finishing her early on?
So after my fight, a lot of people came to me, hey, you could have finished her like there. I'm like, 100% I could have finished there, but I was very rational and smart at that moment. It was just the first round, and I know my first fight I finished very early, like less than 2 minutes. But on that fight, I was being very smart. I knew she was explosive, and I knew she had heavy hands. So I was in my head. I was very rational, making decisions like I don't want to get my arm tired because if she explodes here and we go on top again, I don't want to get my jab lazy and then she comes with heavy hands. So I was taking one step at a time, and I knew like I was gonna get the submission was gonna come to me. I wouldn't need to force it. So I liked it that I could show some of my ground and pounds there, so people don't only think I'm a grappler, because that's what everybody talked about when my first fight. Like, oh, she's coming from jiu-jitsu, and she did an amazing 2 minutes finish. So she's really good at jiu-jitsu, but what people don't really know is that I started on Muay Thai and Taekwondo, so I'm not only a jiu-jitsu girl, and I think it's important for me to show this in the beginning of my career, so whenever I get really, really on top, like, people know I'm not only a grappler and I'm exactly a well-rounded martial artist.
Yeah, definitely. And on that, your ground and pound was vicious during the fight, and some may say that could have been the highlight of the fight. So, would you say that's an aspect of yours that maybe overlooked or maybe underrated?
Um, Man, I love ground and pounding. I mean, you can't really do it in training, because you don't want to hurt your training partners. And it's funny because on my amateur debut, I also ground and pounded, but I couldn't elbow in anything. So, and on my amateur debut, when I did that, I was like, dang, that was one of my dreams was to like mount and ground and pound. And then when I got to do this on this fight, I'm like, dang, I did it again. It's fun. People like it, man. And if you go there and you give them a show, like, you don't need to do much. You just gotta give them. And I like going there and giving exciting fights. I love winning, but I also love giving a show.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, you finished both your pro fights. Are you always looking for the finish, or you're just satisfied with a win?
I'm always looking for a finish, either if it's a knockout or obviously mostly a submission. But as I said before, whenever I step in the cage, I'm ready for 3, 5 rounds. And if I have to fight all of them, I'll fight all of them. But if the first chance of me having to submit or knockout, I'll do it. Doesn't matter.
That's great. And we also did see you on the feet a little bit in the beginning of each round, and it definitely looked like your striking has improved. So, how much would you say your striking has improved since your pro debut?
So since my pro debut, I kept the same trainings. I've been working a lot on my boxing and footwork and also my striking, and I would say I improved a lot in the skill. And from 1 to 10, I'm gonna give it 7.5 because I know I still have a lot to improve, even though it's not really like something I feel bad about it because I in my mind I did very good. I knew she was gonna come with heavy hands, so I knew I could like move around a little more. And also, on my last fight, on my pro debut, the cage was a little bigger than this one, so I was training on the bigger cage. So that kind of made me like, dang, like I was taking 2 steps backwards and I was already in the cage. So that kind of made a little difficult, but still when she was coming forward, like I was throwing heavy hands and everything I worked on my boxing trainings, I did it there. So I was very proud of myself and of my striking as well.
As you should. And something that I found pretty fascinating is you fought on International Women's Day. So, how special was that for you?
That was amazing. And oh my gosh, on my interview, I was gonna say it like Happy International Women's Day to everybody. And I was just like so emotional and everything. But exactly after I finished, I look at my sister, I'm like, no way, I forgot to say it. And then I knew I had to like I don't know, 2 minutes interview. I always talk too much, but it's a thing of me. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't say I said everything I wanted, but this. And she was like, oh my gosh, and I was trying to remind you, but and I was like, it is what it is, man. I'm just glad I did this, like.
Yeah, and on your sister, it's rare you see sisters, one in the corner, one fighting. So, how special is that for you to have your sister in your corner and have her a part of your journey?
Um, so me and my sister, we started training on the same day, and we've been training partners forever, not only in fighting but in life. And I go on her corners as well. And I think it's very important because, and I said that on my interview after fight, that we're not only sisters, but we're mostly like friends, because if we were only sisters, we wouldn't work out. And she's just like my mental coach, my coach there as well. Like she bring the pads to me and she makes me move. She's also great in jiu-jitsu, so I have everything I need with her. We are a team. So for her to be on my corner is always like very special to me. I love it. We but always there for each other. And yeah, she's the best, man.
That's really excellent. And besides MMA, how would you describe your relationship with her? So, like outside the cage, what's your reactions and how do you guys interact?
We're like very much like always helping each other. Sometimes we fight, obviously it's natural, but we almost same age, so everything we do, we go out together. Like we love doing same thing basically. Like we're very much alike, and it's always fun to be with her.
That's awesome, really is. And how'd you celebrate the victory?
So after fight, I had a hamburger and it was amazing. And then, but after I got home and then I already on Sunday, obviously I went to church. It was amazing. And then we came to Las Vegas already because I'm here with my friend Jacqueline Amorim. She's fighting on UFC Fight Night Las Vegas 88. So I'm already here helping her and I mean enjoying the trip as well. So that's my celebration.
And since you're there in Vegas and you're by the UFC PI, you're by the Apex, does it give you more of a feel and more of a motivation to one day be in the UFC?
100%. My on my pro debut, I was here with her as well 1 month before, and you know, I was like having all these feelings because I was finally going pro after a live training, and when I got on the apex, I was like, "Damn, this is what I would really want to be at," and it gives you more motivation to go and train hard because one day you're gonna be there. So it's amazing.
That's awesome. And you're on the 135-pound division, and that's a division that the UFC is currently looking to add more superstars into it. So, how many more fights do you think you need till you get the call from the big organization?
So after my fight, I asked for the belt, for Cage Fury's belt, and I'm pretty sure they should give it to me, the the fight, because I mean, I had two amazing performances on my two fights with them, and I look forward to making that fight on middle of the year, so summer. So after that, I'll probably have to defend the belt or something. So as then I think I'm gonna be. I'm not. I don't think. I'm sure I'm gonna be 4-0, and I don't know. I just know a lot of opportunities are gonna come to me, and I'll just take my time and be very smart, and you know, go for. Hopefully, UFC is gonna call me there, and I'm gonna say yes for sure.
Of course, that's the goal. And you mentioned the Cage Fury belt right there, but they haven't had a champion since 2016. So, do you believe that they should bring the belt back?
100%. I'm here for that. I already called it. I told them, hey, I'm here. I'm making this thing all here for you guys. And so I deserve it.
Don't blame you. And that you have had both your pro fights with the organization. So, how would you describe your time and experience with CFFC?
And I love them. They treat me so well. And I think it's a very organized organization. And I like the show. I like that it goes on UFC Fight Pass. I like the way they treat me, and I just got nice things to say about them.
Definitely. I believe they're one of the best promotions out there. And when would you like to compete next for them?
When
Yeah,
so as I said about the title fight, I think they're gonna have one card in June. So 100% want to be on that card fighting for the belt.
that's awesome. And you're only 19 years young, so you don't really see that many fighters be in a position where they can fight for the belt. So, what would you contribute to your success at such a young age?
So I started martial arts when I was 9, and since then I haven't stopped. And my family and I, we moved to Florida to have more opportunities to train here and stuff. And um, I grew up and around professional people and always knowing my goal in life. So that helps me a lot and makes me more mature, I think, and me knowing where I want to get, where I want to be at, I think that keeps me going forward.
For sure. And you mentioned right there that you started training at 9, but when did you first realize that you can do this at the pro level?
So mm, my first Muay Thai fight, I was 13 and I loved it. And I was like, dang, I really love fighting. And then on that same year, I moved here. So I started training and then but then because I was so young, obviously, there was not so many striking fights, and you couldn't do MMA back then. But then I started competing jiu-jitsu a lot, and I was mostly like more into jiu-jitsu. I fell in love with it, and I was like worlds, Pan Americans. So I was always competing so much jiu-jitsu until I really got to compete my amateur um fight, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready to go pro. I've been training my whole life, I'm really ready. And then I did my amateur debut on April last year, and then September I already did my pro debut. So it was a thing that I was like, no, I'm ready. And when I said I was going pro, and then because I had so much time, so much hard time trying to get amateur fights for me. My amateur MMA debut was actually at 145. Like I didn't even need to cut weight and stuff, but only because there was no one that would get fight with me. I think probably because my grappling background. So it was really hard. So I got a title amateur fight and for the 145, and after that I was like, okay, let's go pro, because if I have to wait to get fights, I'll wait, but I'm gonna be pro. So I took that decision. I was like, when I take a decision, I don't go back. And after that, I got like some amateur events calling me out for some fights. I'm like, hey, no, I'm sorry right now. I took a decision. I know better things are gonna come, even though like it was still hard to get me pro fights. And then, man, I got it, and I was like, okay, now we're going forward.
Yeah, you definitely made the right decision there. And you mentioned earlier on that you traveled to the US. So how difficult was that for you to transfer from one country to another?
So it was very hard for me to learn English. I still feel like I'm still learning every day, because I don't know, you guys. Um, I don't know. You get something new word every day. I don't understand that. But anyways, I went to school here, and I used to cry for a whole month because I didn't understand anything they said. I only knew how to say hi, yes, and no. And the first thing I learned was like, I don't speak English, sorry. But like then it became kind of natural, and honestly, I don't see myself living back in Brazil once again, because I kind of grew here as well, so I don't really remember how it's to like live in Brazil, because I was just a kid, and now that I'm growing here, I feel like here is home for me.
Yeah, your English is definitely good for only 6 years. So,
I know. Thank you though.
of course. And would one day be a goal of yours to fight in Brazil?
Yes, 100%. I would be so glad to do that. I know a lot of my friends and family would go and support me. So that's definitely something I look forward.
Awesome. And of course, we're talking about the UFC earlier, but there are other major promotions out there. Is the UFC the only promotion on your mind, or would you be willing to fight for a PFL or Bellator or One or any of those other promotions?
I think right now, my goal is the UFC, especially the 135 division there. They need let's say some nice young people to fight there. I know I'm gonna make some noise there.
Yeah. And on the 135-pound division, they have a big fight coming up soon at UFC 300 between Kayla Harrison and Holly Holm. So what's your prediction on that fight?
Kayla is one of my training partners, and it's crazy how she's coming from 155 to 135. But man, I just know she's gonna give Holly a hard time, and I don't think Holly is gonna have the ability to defend her takedowns because they are amazing. And I've trained with her. She's so strong, and I think she's gonna do better than Holly on this fight, 100%.
Yeah, and you have a lot of great training partners down there in Florida. So how privileged do you feel to be able to train with these top level females at such a young age?
Very privileged. It's like that also gives me a little bit of more confidence whenever I go and fight, because they're my training partners, and I whenever I need them, they're like they go and spar with me. I for my debut, my sparring were with Iana Silva. So when I was like sparring, I was like, "Damn, I'm going to fight this really strong girl." And then I would think like, "But I'm sparring Yana, that she's one of the best top 10 of UFC. So, I shouldn't be afraid. I'm sparring one of the best." So that gives me a lot of confidence.
Yeah, and on that confidence, the fact that you're training with these top level females, does it show you that you could be on the same level as them one day?
100%, 100%. We push each other every day, and I could say that it's sooner than ever.
Yeah, and who are the top females out there? Can be people you train with or people just that you adore watching that you look up to and that motivate you?
My sister. For me, she's the best fighter in the world. I love the way she moves. Not because she's my sister, but I love the way she moves. Her striking is amazing. And also, she's very young, and she has an amazing grappling as well. So I love her. She's the best.
That's the correct answer there. And would it be a dream of yours one day to maybe fight on the same card as her in a major promotion?
100%. I don't think my mom and dad would like that very much, but 100%. And also, I wouldn't be on her corner, or she wouldn't be on my corner, but we would definitely do great, and I would love that.
Yeah, and my final question for you is when you make it to the UFC one day, what are some of your dream fights?
Whoever is on like top 10 and for the title, I want to be world champion. So that's always my goal.
That's amazing. Is there anything you want to shout out or anything you want to plug before you head out of here?
Not really. I just want to say thank you to everybody who supports me and gives me some love. And Jesus is coming back. God bless you guys.
Emily, it was more than a pleasure having you on. Folks, that'll be all for today. Until next time. Peace.